Welcome to Gunkel Tarot. My name is Brian Griffin, and today I'm going to look at animal decks. I was in a conversation yesterday with someone and mentioned that I have a couple of animal decks, a couple to me meaning 2 or 3, or maybe 4, and that I didn't dislike them, but I didn't connect with them a lot and didn't want a lot of duplication in my moderate-sized tarot library. Entering my office this morning, I thought, I wonder if it's 4, maybe 5, and actually it's 7. So I'm going to do a quick introduction to the decks, and then if there are any that somebody wants a walk through, a flip through, or some more information, just let me know in the comments below, and I'll do my best to oblige. The first deck, which is one of the first non-tarot oracle decks that I purchased, would have been late 80s, early 90s, and one of a couple of First Nations themed decks. First Nations is a more common term in Canada for Indigenous peoples of North America. And this particular one I have is from the original publisher, which was Bear and Company in Santa Fe. They published a set of cards. I believe these are 3 by 5.5. It's a set of 44 with an additional 8 blank cards that we could use to make our own animal totem card. I believe the current publisher has replaced those with specific animal cards. They are typical assortment of what people would think of as wild animals of North America that Indigenous peoples have thoughts on, relationships with, history of, etc. Let me zoom in. There we go. So the artwork is simple in a lot of ways, very focused on the animal in the middle with some, one might say, blatant Indian inspired, and I would say from the time period that's what word they used, decoration on the cards. But nice cards. They shuffle well, they read well. The other First Nations deck I bought about the same time has the exact same size cards and has one of the same co-authors. This is by Jamie Sands. I apologize for the cutaway. That was because Merrick, the resident feline, was adamant to make an appearance. I've learned that shutting the office door only makes him scratch at the door and voice his opinion and dismay rather loudly. This is the book that came with the original deck. I believe the current publisher still makes a hardcover book, although the color is different if I recall correctly. So it's a nice book. It has some comments on the history, the healing powers of animals, some spreads, and using the blank cards. And then for each animal, you get a depiction of the artwork from the card. And we'll see if Merrick's tail clears the camera. So artwork, and then a write-up with traditions and stories of the animal. Some are 2 pages, some are just 1 page. And nice, useful deck. I still pull it from time to time. And that's number 1. My second deck, I believe it came in a tuck box. It came from the Game Crafter. And I take all decks that come in tuck boxes and put them in bags and or boxes. We learned back in the 80s the tuck boxes don't last, but then we didn't save them because we never thought of tarot's cards as being collectibles. So be that as it may. This is called the Oracle of the Wild. Again, it's available from the Game Crafter. I love the deck. I love the artwork. I love the style of it. Unfortunately, it's 30 cards, and that's not really a lot. And the card has a keyword on it. And I love the cards. I love using them. Unfortunately, the guidebook is not in alphabetical order. The cards are not numbered. And so makes it a bit difficult to look at it at the entries. They may be in some particular order that makes sense to the artist, but it's not an obvious one. And in the write-ups, they don't really mention the animal used on the card. So it's a great idea. I should, I guess, research and see if they perhaps turn this into a larger, more extensive collection, a larger deck with more information, more cards, because I do love the artwork. It's Game Crafter stock, and they have upped their game. It's a black core stock, I believe they're up to 320 or 330 GSM now. They did upgrade in the last couple of years to make a slightly thicker stock. So it's a pretty small deck, so you can shuffle it pretty much anyway. The cards are not designed to be reversible, by which I mean if you do reverse cards, you can tell when you go through the backs. It's not that you can't do reversals. I don't read reversals, and this deck isn't designed for it. The guidebook doesn't talk about reverse meanings. So that's the second deck. The third deck is a crossover, by which I mean it is both a tarot and expanded oracle deck. It's called the Arc. You can buy it from many stores. I purchased the initial deck of 100 from there, from my local store. You can also, I'll get the address off the, oh, there we are. What is myspiritanimal.com. You can purchase this deck or the add-ons, which I'll talk about in a second. So this was a Kickstarter, or Indigo. It was a fundraising that I didn't get in on and originally came out, but I did decide to get it, so I picked it up, as I said, the 100-card deck from a local store. And then there are add-on decks. So first of all, the original 100 cards include 78 tarot cards. These are all animal, and they are large, they're more oracle sized. Little stiff. Because of the size, if you use the complete deck with add-ons, I'm never going to riffle shuffle 148 cards. But I guess some people can. So each of the tarot specific cards include the animal, the tarot equivalent, and some keywords. Again, it's designed so that you could ignore the tarot information if you wanted to just use it as an animal deck. Artwork is lovely. Colors are spectacular. The guidebook, which I'll get into in a minute, is fabulous as well. So the 100 cards start with the 78 card tarot, and then they add an additional 22 cards. You can then purchase 4 add-on decks or packs of a dozen cards each, and I love the range. Now these are all of the non-tarot named cards in alphabetical order, so I can't distinguish between the original 100 and each of the add-ons, other than certain add-ons were of a category. So for example, we have quote-unquote mythical cards. As a Griffin myself, I'm cautious about dismissing mythical animals, since I would like to get a paycheck and mythical animals don't get paid. And then there's also some dinosaurs, etc. Again, wonderful collection, lovely artwork, great keywords. I find this interesting because I'm not a great person for nature. A variety of things, trauma from childhood incidents, a family that was very bookish and withdrawn, and my therapist and I are having a lot of work finding out more secrets, but that's neither here nor there. Guidebook, full color, wonderful. It's the thing on the back. So, excuse me. Okay, so full color illustration for each of the cards, full color, a bit about the tarot if it's a tarot card, spirit, totem, and power animal uses, which they go into in the introduction. And again, all of the animals, whether they're considered tarot or not. So there's the bonus, and then they have the add-on packs. So has a nice, okay, so there it was. It separates it by the categories. This 12 was the mom and baby card pack, and etc. So it's a great book. It's a wonderful deck. I use it not as much as I'd like because I have more than the minimum number of decks. But it is a great deck, a wonderful investment of my money to purchase and time to learn. And so that's that one. So moving on to traditional tarot decks. White Sage Tarot may be familiar to many of you. It's been around for some time, published through U.S. Games, so widely available. The artist has done another non-tarot deck, the name of which escapes me. You have to hold these up because they're in the tin, so a nice small size. So nice artwork. Obviously a lot less detail possible when you're working on a small card size, but this is the first one I bought that really I consider a nature deck, and although I don't use it a lot, it helps me get into, if you will, non-anthropomorphic decks. It's nice. I love the soft colors. It gives me a gentle read, which may be more an indication of my not taking it seriously than anything else, but it is a nice deck. One of a number I bought when I mentioned earlier about investing government money, stimulus funds in buying decks. This next one was bought strictly as a fun deck. Again, it came in a tuck box, which I have saved in a plastic tub in case I ever want to move the deck along. I leave it in the bag in the box. This is the Tarot of Kirk, the Kilted Rubber Chicken by Beth Selenon, who has done a number of decks, many of which she self-publishes. This one is available through The Game Crafter. Minimal little white book, but again, pretty standard tarot, so I'm not surprised at that. The cards are fun. It's a great concept. I am a little disappointed, and I've done a blog review of this deck and commented about that. I love the artwork. I love the concept. It's a kilted rubber chicken who's going through life and having experiences. It's a fun deck. It would be a perfect deck, except that unfortunately the artist who self-publishes apparently has some problems with basic graphic design, and so the artwork has no real allowance for bleed and has instead a border which is supposed to be cut off, but because printing has some variation, you'll get things like that pink line on the top of the card and on the sides of some cards. See a lot on there, like that. Am I being persnickety? Yes. Partly because I do graphic design and I'm not an expert and I know better than this. And partly because it is an artist who has published a number of decks and so really should know better. And also when I mentioned this to them, I tagged them. Their comment was the deck is no longer available, which is not factually true, and they have made no effort to correct it or withdraw it. They're happy to take people buying it imperfect as it is. And yeah, but it is what it is. It's not on my list of decks that need to be rehomed. I do like using it. I just don't like to use it professionally because it's got some basic errors in it. But it is a cute deck. I do enjoy it. My last two decks are both cat decks. I never intended to have two cat decks. This one I purchased, as I've said, I believe a couple of times now, when I took my first government stimulus check 2 years ago and invested it in expanded range of decks. I'm very proud of the fact that I spent the money through local stores. So we have a number of mystical art stores here in Central Ohio. So I took my U.S. Games list and asked my favorite shop to order it. And then I took my Llewellyn list to another shop. And who am I missing? Red Feather to another shop, etc. The Ark was purchased from another shop, etc. So not only did I spread the money around, I spread it through local shops. And I think that's important that we take responsibility for not only what we buy, but where we buy. That being said, this was one of my U.S. games, and it's a nice enough deck. I like it. It's now on my list of decks available to rehome because of the next deck, which I'll go into in a second. Again, it's a perfectly cromulent deck. It has very nice artwork. The little white book is U.S. Games Little White Book. It reads well. It shuffles well because it's U.S. Games. I like it. It was what I expected to get. I mean, U.S. Games does a lot of previews on their website. And so, it was nice. And I don't care about the back not being reversible because I've said before I don't do reversals. It's a nice enough deck. It's been shuffled through a couple of times. I did a couple of readings with it. Nothing wrong with the deck. It's just been supplanted in my heart by the next deck. This Christmas family gathering, which is in January because of scheduling and so many people having partners and in-laws and outlaws to deal with. Anyways, so I was back in Canada in January and got to spend some time. And in the gift exchange, I got this one, and it's a very nice deck. It is the Tarot of Pagan Cats by Lo Scarabeo. The artwork in many ways is not that much different than the deck I showed you a second ago. Excuse me while I check on the cat. Sorry about that. Cat being a cat. So it's just a little different, and for some reason it connects with me better. So the Hanged Man, Hierophant, the Ace, the Knight, the 10. I love that the rainbow is there in a way that sort of makes sense because sometimes it seems a little hard. What a card. Temperance. So again, both decks are good. They're pretty standard size, pretty standard stock. Each have a little white book. This one, being Lo Scarabeo, has minimal because it's the book's in so many different languages. This one to me reads like a real tarot deck and is not afraid to tell me what I need to hear. The other one is not like that with me, or I'm not like that with it. Okay, so those are my 7 animal decks. Obviously, I connect with some of them a little more than perhaps I thought. One of them, as I said, is on the rehoming list, simply because 2 cat decks seems a little much, even though I love cats. So those are my animal decks.